this is a great occasion for all of us to understand the basics of the governance system in India since independence. Since most of the people attending the program do not belong to public administration, so I'll just make it very simple and look to the issue areas much more than the details of the description of the history. But nevertheless, we should know. We talk about governance and government. What is the relationship between the two? Government has three branches, the executive, legislature, and judiciary. Executive has two branches, the political executive, that is ministers, and the administrators are the administrative executive. Then the word governance started getting into circulation 3 decades ago. And it includes not only the government, but also political parties which have an influence on the administrative system, people's groups, pressure groups, NGOs. So governance is a process that is being influenced by a number of institutions, government actors and non-government actors, state actors or non-state actors. But what has happened is that still governance is a process that is being guided by the government. Other actors are having only peripheral role. As we mature as democracy, we'll find that people, the groups, the political parties, the media, all these will have a direct influence on the working of the administrative system or the governance system. Nevertheless, although we will be talking about public administration, but we will talk about the context of the administrative system also, because that will help us in understanding as to what are the issues which relate not just to public administrative flaws, but also because of environmental influences. But let me first of all tell you that we talk about good governance these days a great deal, and we try to borrow these ideas from World Bank and many of the American and international bodies, IMF, IBRD, and then number of other international organizations. But I'm really amazed that the finest book on public administration or statecraft is in India, Kautilya's Arthashastra. And H.G. Wells in his book, Outline of History, published in 1922, says, if you make a list of all the great leaders of the world who have been the heads of states and heads of governments of any country, of any time, there is only one person, like a polar star on the sky of greatness, that is Ashoka the Great. I mean, we learn a great deal from Ashoka, primarily because he implemented all the maxims of good administration which were incorporated in Kautilya's Arthashastra. Then we had great other kings, of course, like Harshvardhan, Chandragupta Maurya, Chandragupta Vikramaditya. We had in the Mughal rule, number of great rulers, and during the British rule, we had people who had contributed significantly as governor generals or viceroys or secretaries of state, whether sitting in India or in England. But what is important is that a leader counts a great deal. A good king, a good emperor, a good collector, a good prime minister, a good chief minister, those who are heading the administration, their personality influences the working of the governance system a great deal. What has happened over the years is that 5,000 years of Indian history has been a history of monarchy, particularly feudalism and then colonialism. It's only now for the first time that real democracy started taking deep roots in India only 74, 75 years ago. So in our DNA, democracy has not been there. It's only now that we're instilling it. It's only now that we are making administrative system also working in a democratic context. Therefore, many of the weaknesses and limitations of the present administrative system generally, they are rooted in history of the administrative system, history of the governance system. So if there have been flaws in the Mughal administrative system, you'll find them today in India too, or in the British administrative system, you'll find them in India too, present India. So first of all, we should all try to understand that contemporary governance system in India is influenced a great deal by its history, and then, of course, many other systems or subsystems which comprise the overall environment or context of administration or the governance system. Take the case of political system. Now, up to 1947, all the great leaders of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Bose, Lokmanya Tilak, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, number of others, some of them had experience in administration. Sardar Patel had experience in administration, Bose had, and Jawaharlal Nehru had, Lal Bahadur Shastri had, but all the great leaders who had made contribution to the freedom movement and national movement, they did not have their roots in the administrative system as such. So many people who didn't have experience in administration became political leaders of India. They became chief ministers, they became ministers, they became political leaders under whom the reins of administration were controlled. And so there were certain inexperienced people also who really learned the ropes of administration as time passed by. So we were not a very experienced democracy. Although we did learn from parliamentary democracy, we did learn from cabinet form of government, but we should not really blame those people who were in the freedom movement or were part of the political system of the country before independence, but they did not have experience of administration. So that the political system after independence, which became democratic, had to depend for its existence on the election system. Elections became very expensive, large country. Election reforms have not taken place in this country until now. Criminals are still a part of the overall political system. There are no powers of the election commission or of the courts to bar people from contesting elections. Expensive elections, they have a great negative impact on the overall culture of politics. Then how do you really meet all the expenses? How do you compensate? And so political system has come to a state where it is a burden on the governance system. No doubt it is doing a great job, of course, but then we should understand that there are certain limitations of the political system, democratic political. And democracy and corruption, for example, go together, somebody said recently in a very important essay. True. But the idealism of the freedom movement of the country and of the nationalist movement of the country is still alive. There is still great value for honesty in this country, for efficiency, effectiveness, citizenship, people's participation. And so we are in a state where we should not really grumble about the status of governance system in India and don't criticize, we should not criticize it unnecessarily, because there is a great hobby of people of government bashing. And they blame politicians, they blame administrators, the civil servants at every level. I think this is very unfair. Let us look at the contribution of administrative system so far. So while I was talking about the political system, and then of course there is economic system. We are short of money. We can't really spend a lot of money on infrastructure development, on technology development. Mr. Manmohan Singh and all other prime ministers wanted about 6% of their expenses, for example, to be investment on education and health, 3% on health, 6% on education. It has not been possible. We are short of money, of course. And when a COVID-19 crisis comes, then all our financial resources, they just move in one direction of saving the people from this great tragedy that befell us recently. But 75 years of Indian governance system has certain positive traits and certain positive contributions really to be talked about. For example, it brought us stability. It brought us stability. India is one. India is united. People are one. The caste, religious differences are gradually obliterating. We have not been able to eradicate them. But yes, we are a better India. We are a united India. And this bureaucracy has really been responsible for bringing that unity also. All India services, central services have been responsible for bringing that culture of harmony in our country. Then there's been internal security in this country. The police, the central police forces, the BSF, the CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force, industrial force, and of course paramilitary forces backed by the army. Army is a part of governance, of course, And we are presently a strong country. Agreed, we cannot match China in everything. But now we can say with great pride that we are a country with tremendous amount of positive, healthy linkages with the rest of the world. And therefore, no country can really have that adventure of attacking us. Number three, there has been tremendous amount of development in this country. Education, health, communication, transport, and irrigation and agriculture and industry and commerce and trade. In all areas, there has been tremendous growth. And who have been the people who are responsible for this? The people who are members of the governance system, the political leaders, the administrative leaders. COVID-19 crisis, I think we were just taken aback in the second wave, but now we are really prepared. And maybe we made certain mistakes in really judging the prognosis of the whole malady coming up on us. But overall, I think it will really be prudent for us to give credit to the various warriors, whether doctors or nurses or paramilitary forces, or clerks, babus, administrators, IAS officers, ministers, prime ministers, all chief ministers, state services, district administration, local administration. They all join together, and their powers, their energy, their motivation, their dedication, their commitment, all together made us really capable of facing this problem and crisis. We are in a better situation. Hopefully we remain so. But the image of the government has certainly improved as a result of the crisis we faced recently. We have a balanced polity. There is a role of people, there is a role of legislature, role of judiciary, role of bureaucracy, role of politicians. Everyone has a status in this governance system. Our elections have been very fair. And when we look at the contribution of the administrative system during crisis or disasters or conducting a census, I think they have made a remarkable impact on our governance system and the country. With this background, that we should be thankful to the governance system for what it has done for us, let me now briefly, just in 5 minutes, tell you that what have been the stages of growth of governance system in this country since independence. First of all, in 1947, the first phase was adoption and adaptation. Number of institutions which were there of the British government when British rule in India, they were just transferred to our independent India. Laws like Indian Police Act, CRPC, IPC, Indian Evidence Act, Parliamentary form of government, Cabinet form of government, Boards of Revenue, the CAG of India, UPSC of India. I mean, there were about 40 institutions of the British rule which was transferred to independent India, and they are still continuing. Number two, many new innovations, second stage. Second stage was developing institutions. Institutions like Planning Commission in 1950, like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, like IITs, central universities. Number of new institutions were created. Then there were innovations. Innovations like Panchayati Raj of 1959, long time ago. And there were many innovations which were created. And then the fourth stage was of radical reforms. These radical reforms have been very few. Some have been incremental reforms. And incremental reforms are just you are adding to the already existing institutions, you're giving them new role, you're giving them new responsibilities, you are adding to their structures, enhancing their infrastructure, and radical reforms are, for example, the most important radical reform in India of governance was the LP, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Mr. Manmohan Singh, former finance minister at that time, Mr. Narasimha Rao, and the Prime Minister's Secretary, Mr. Verma, A.N. Verma. These three people were responsible for ushering in a new era of liberalization. We were rather late. Not that Nehruvian socialism was anyway bad, but times had changed and the whole world was changing. The world was becoming global village, and we were little late in joining it. But 30 years have passed of LPG, and there has been tremendous amount of transformation of the governance system because of LPG. You find ease of doing business, you find FDI, you find globalization, competitions among various countries, the good governance index, the happiness index, the transparency international index, and number of competitive factors and areas of concern have become so significant today that India is now a very important part of the community of international world. We are a respected country, and our Prime Minister and our leaders of the country, whether chief ministers, they are looked with great respect, primarily because we have been very responsible democracy in many, many ways. Yes, there are weaknesses though, but this LPG, and then of course the 73rd and 74th Amendment of Panchayati Raj and Municipal Administration, it was a game changer. Today you find that people are in large numbers are participating in the overall governance system, and that is a great contribution. The third important radical change was the RTI of 2005. Precursor was 2002 Freedom of Information Act, and it was Right to Information Act. Agreed, there are large number of pending cases, but I tell you one thing, if you look at RTI, it has made a great impact on the administrators. They are more cautious. Corruption is not over, but then this approach of the administrators to be cautious in writing their notes or making decisions has been responsible for curbing corruption to a great extent. The fourth and the most significant governance reform in recent times has been digitalization, e-governance. Aadhaar is one of the most important innovations in India. And the way Aadhaar has been used by the governance system is creditable. Each person has an identity. In COVID management also, Aadhaar had a great role to play. In Jan Dhan Yojana, where Aadhaar certainly became an instrument for opening an account in a bank of a person who until then was totally anonymous, it has really curbed corruption. Direct payment of money to be given to Narega workers directly deposited in the bank has really curbed corruption and nullified the role of the agents who are there in between, having about maybe 40 to 50% of money of the people, pocketing that. It's now over. And I tell you one thing, if you look at the overall governance system of this country and the changes that have been brought about, you give credit to all the prime ministers. Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru laid the foundation. Indira Gandhi did a wonderful work in curbing poverty, having a number of programs and making India a little more populist. That is good. Rajiv Gandhi was responsible for a number of reforms. Mr. Manmohan Singh was responsible for a number of changes in the overall democratic pattern of administration. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee expanded the road network and the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Narega during Manmohan Singh ji, and during Mr. Narendra Modi, the whole process continues. And presently technology is being used to a great extent in dealing with GST, income tax, admissions, reservations, and planning for the future. It has been a remarkable change. And each and every person, what is good about Indian governance system is that when Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee had a road network developing and Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Mr. Manmohan Singh continued with that. If there is Narega, started by Manmohan Singh, Modi ji continues with that. And although we think as if all the political parties are fighting with each other, but there is a understanding that for the sake of the country that harmony is necessary. And during the present debates that you find on TV between the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers of the country, that cooperative federalism, harmonious federalism is very much being seen. And that is something which is most creditable. So friends, I would not like to give you a catalogue of the reforms which have been brought about recently by Mr. Modi, our Prime Minister. But the Karam Yogi Yojana is there, and then the recruitment system has changed tremendously, and performance appraisal system has changed, and many new institutions are coming up. I think that is not possible to deal with all these various stages of reforms in India. But I would like to mention about some of the reforms that ought to be undertaken in various areas. And let us see some of the changes which are necessary. Okay, see, any administrator has three personality dimensions, A, B, and C. A is ability, competence, capacity, decision-making ability, policy-making ability, implementation ability, monitoring, delegation, control. This is A. B is behavior, empathy, sympathy, trust, faith, support, friendship, encouragement, motivation, giving leadership. That is B. And C is character, sincerity, honesty, integrity, dedication, and commitment. What is happening is that our all reforms have generally focused on A, ability, making administration more effective or efficient. And it has become so. It is becoming so. Although there is a difference between the central government and the state governments, some of the state governments have really been ahead of others, primarily because of the British impact, because the British were really ruling some parts of a particular state directly, like for example, Maharashtra, Karnataka, West Bengal, and Tamil Nadu. They have more efficient administrative systems. But you'll be surprised at the recent Good Governance Index brought out on 25th December 2021, only a few days ago. Number one is Gujarat, which is remarkable indeed. And you find Goa doing so well, Odisha doing well, Kerala doing marvelously well. So 20 states have improved their governance index between 2019 and 2021. That is, in 2 years, 20 states have done better than what they did earlier. Even a state like UP and Bihar, they have done creditably well. It means India is on the move in the field of governance. And the Public Affairs Index, which was issued only recently, again, many of the states have done better. And you find Himachal Pradesh, you find Goa, you find Madhya Pradesh, you find southern states which have done well. You find Odisha, you find Bihar, you find Uttar Pradesh, and some of them are galloping, some of them are striding, some of them are walking, some of them are running, but no state is static. That is something that goes to the credit of states. So, okay, I was only telling you efficiency is important, but governance does not only mean efficiency, B is behavior. In this regard, we need reform. There is that colonial tinge of behavior in our administrators, the monarchical, the feudal. There is accessibility is less. Sometimes there is arrogance. And sometimes there is so much of distance that people don't feel comfortable in having a close relationship with the administrators. I think we should really think in terms of respect for the people, more empathy, more concern for the weaker people, the uneducated, the poverty-ridden common people in villages or in slums. We should listen to them. The grievance machinery should become really more effective. And this goes to the credit of the government of Mr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Modi both. The grievance machinery has become really lubricated. It is now a new portal, a new grid has now come about, where all the grievances of all the states and the central government together will be dealt with in a comprehensive manner and coordinated manner. And I rightly feel that in terms of security also, internal security also, the police system also, this grid of internal security should be formed. What happens is a culprit runs from one state to the other, and then the police of one state goes to the other state and to catch him. I think there should be some portals where internal security grids are there. So we should be a little more cautious in our dealing with people who need us. There are two types of people in India. Those whom we need, every one of us, we have two types of people. Those whom we need and those who need us. I think those whom we need have become more important because they can help us or harm us. And those common people who need us, certainly we are not being very empathetic towards them. We should be. The third is character. And in this regard, certainly there is a great cause of worry and concern. Corruption has not been controlled, not been curbed. Central government, yes. Central government, yes. But states, local level, district level, despite the best intentions of chief ministers and collectors, I mean, there are so many loopholes that we are not able to really plug them totally. Kautilya was very much concerned about the prevalence of corruption and curbing it. And I think my humble judgment is not the final judgment, but let me most humbly mention that curbing corruption has not been a priority for governments in India, except in the central government. All state governments have tried their best, but look at this, anti-corruption bureaus. I mean, permission is not given to them to go ahead and file charge sheets or take the cases to the court. Large number of cases go unattended because of that, and anti-corruption bureaus can't do. Now we had a Lokpal, a very major radical reform I wanted to mention was the creation of Lokpal. Lokpal was created in 2013 in India as a result of the Anna Hazare movement of 2011, but it started working 8 years later because of the intervention of the Supreme Court. And do you know, the new report has come, and this is before me, that overall the number of cases of Lokpal during 2020-21 have been little over 100, that's all 120 maybe, and 4 are against the MPs. Look at that. 8 judges sitting together, waiting for people to approach them with their grievances. And they feel frustrated. I'm sure they do. All eminent people. Why this institution of Lokpal, which was first of all recommended by the Administrative Reforms Commission of India under Morarji Desai on 20th October 1966, not created. And when created, it is still an ineffective organization. Have we lost the faith in such institutions? Perhaps not. But people need to be really educated that they have certain sources where they can vindicate their grievances and problems and meet their problems. And that is really not happening. And Lok Ayuktas are good. They have done good work in Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh. And Lokpal in India is waiting for its own responsibilities to be fulfilled assiduously, and certainly there is no tentativeness about it there as far as Lokpal is concerned. Then what I'm suggesting is that we have to give great importance, looking at the time only. Oh, I should look at that. Let me see. I have to go up to 4:45. Okay, 4:45. We'll be 5 minutes left. Doesn't matter. So we have to give great importance to state administration. You know, all the states were ruled over, most of the states were ruled over by the, princely princes and little monarchs or feudals or zamindars at the lower level. And that culture of effectiveness has still not come. And let me give you one example, which will be sufficient to make you understand as to what ought to be done. Look at the Central Secretariat. Central Secretariat, because of British rule, was an effective organization. Nicely trained people, even babus, who know how to write note sheets, submission notes, punctual, work culture groomed, and decision making and policy making is absolutely professional, as good as that of any other country, developed or underdeveloped, much better than many. Let me tell you, even today, Central Secretariat of the Government of India is among the best administrative institutions on the globe. So what is happening is that state secretariats should also be groomed properly. More of professionalism, better recruitment, more training, more of work culture, better time management, greater monitoring, better delegation, less of centralization, promptness in decision making, promptness in policy making. As soon as you make a policy, have an administrative plan also along with that. And really you make people really feel that citizen charters are being really honored. that public service delivery systems, laws are being implemented properly. There is accessibility. People should feel that administration is for them, and people should feel that they have a role to play in the overall governance system. Their opinions should matter. Their ideas should matter. Let us involve the retired people throughout the country, even housewives. Let us involve young people from NSS to awaken the people. Recently, a study of the Karnataka government revealed that people don't know about Ayushman Bharat. They don't know about the Karnataka government's welfare schemes. Who teaches these people? Who reaches them? Hardly any. People have to go to government to find out what are the benefits available to them, or maybe some newspapers tell them. But my God, if a large number of government schemes which are meant for the welfare of the people are not being utilized by the common people, is it the fault of the common man? Fault of the government also, because we should have tremendous amount of public relations, publicity, and communication system, and utilize this manpower of the retired people, the retired babus, the retired teachers, retired officers, retired nurses, retired doctors, retired engineers, and people. I mean, there is, as recently published study of Niti Aayog says, that is India at the rate of 75, is a recently published study. It says administration should be so much a part of the overall democratic process, it should become a Jan Andolan. I'm quoting Niti Aayog only. Jan Andolan. It should become a people's movement. Administration is a people's movement. I mean, first of all, there is people-oriented administration. Then there is people-centric administration. And now our objective, as Mr. Modi said, that we should involve people to an extent that they become the heroes of the administrative system. They become the heroes of the governance system, not just the objects, but also the subjects, not just the people who are receiving benefits, but those who are creating a climate of excellence in administration. In the end, I would like to say that there are reasons to be happy about what has happened. But unfortunately, there are many factors. And one factor I would like to focus on as I close. We should have a disciplined democracy. We should have a disciplined parliament which gives more time to discussion on important bills, legislations, and budgetary provisions than fight on all the members of parliament fighting with each other on very small trivial issues. We want a disciplined judiciary where 4 crore cases are pending today in Indian courts. Let us increase the number of judges. Let us develop a management program to really nullify this whole delay system and procrastination. Discipline in judiciary, discipline in the executive. All the political leaders ought to be given education in administration at all levels. They should be really not only doing their political work, but also administrative work. Because a person who is a political leader is also a leader. And the administrative leader's discipline. Every administrator should not only perform his role as a good worker, which is expected of him, but as a leader who is motivating his subordinates, guiding, and there should be great importance in monitoring. Prakash Tandon, former chairman of State Trading Corporation and former chairman of Punjab National Bank, once said, there is no need of any reform in this country in the field of administration, only one is needed, that all senior officers should monitor the work of their juniors, motivate them, guide them, train them. Once I was delivering a lecture at National Academy, Missouri, where 30 IAS officers of 18 to 30 years seniority were there. And I asked one thing, have you created a single person like you in your career? And one of the ladies said, is it our responsibility? I said, yes, you are a leader. And a leader is one who is a dealer in hope. A leader is one who is a people's developer. All your subordinates who work under you should have that impression of having gained something spiritually, morally, behaviorally, educationally, and operationally from you. One lady said from Andhra, yes, I have. I train my people, I guide my people. And one more point and I close. Why do we only think in terms of leadership, only in terms of political leadership? Are there moral leaders? Are there religious leaders? Are there educational leaders? Do they not have a responsibility to bring about change in this country? Why have we underestimated the role of non-political leadership in this country? Was Abdul Kalam a political leader at one time? Radhakrishnan, the great moral leaders. And I tell you one thing, India is full of great leaders. The only thing is I've yet to hear from them. Be honest in your work, be efficient in your work, be kind to people whom you serve. We need a new culture. I have no grievance against what is happening today in the country, but I have hopes and faith that as times change and we become a disciplined democracy, Indian governance system will not only shine and outshine the systems of other countries, but we shall become people who can take pride in saying, yes, I'm an Indian. Thank you very much.